Ladies and gentlemen, something is happening in America right now, and people who built the old system, the universities, the media, the activist bureaucracies, they feel it's slipping straight through their fingers. Now, for years, they controlled the narrative, controlled the language, controlled what your kids heard in classrooms and what you were allowed to say on campus. But suddenly, almost overnight, the country snapped awake. And now, for the first time in decades, those same institutions, they're staring down a force that they cannot contain anymore. Public backlash, federal authority, and a president, Donald J. Trump, who is not afraid to touch the third rails that they thought were untouchable. Now, Trump's new rules on women's sports, the crackdown on campus censorship, the demand that universities obey federal law or lose federal money, these aren't policy tweaks. These are tectonic plates that are shifting under the entire cultural landscape. And the left feels the earthquake coming. Let's just put it that way. You've seen the meltdowns, the protests, the buildings barricaded, students screaming in hallways because the old ideological shield is cracking. Voters, they turned against ideology. Parents demanding fairness. Americans are saying enough. Well, tonight, I'm going to tell you everything. I'm going to tell you why these schools are shaking, why campuses are erupting, and why public opinion flipped so fast, and why the people who once ran the entire culture, why they're panicking right now. This is not a story about politics. This is a story about power and what happens when a nation finally pushes back. Hit the like button and subscribe. Folks, if you feel like this country is sitting on a fault line, you're not imagining it. I mean, the left is in a full-blown identity crisis mode right now. I mean, for years, they believed that cultural power was enough. They own the universities, the media, the foundations, Hollywood, the bureaucracies. They assumed that as long as they shaped the culture, political power would always follow automatically. But here we are in December 2025, and they're looking around and they're realizing something terrifying. The culture slipped, the politics collapsed, and the public woke up. They lost the youth vote in key states. Hispanic and black voters shifted, parents pushed back, polls flipped, and suddenly the very people that they thought that they controlled, they don't agree with them anymore. So what do? They panic, they lash out, they double down on the same ideology that voters rejected. And that creates a national pressure cooker, political chaos, cultural backlash, and institutions melting down under the weight of their own confidence. America is not calm. America is pressurized. Now, let's talk about the detonation point, folks. This is the issue that really turned into the cultural earthquake of 2025. Trump's federal ban on biological males competing in women's sports. Now, this wasn't just a sports policy. This was a national mirror, forcing Americans to choose between ideology and reality. Now, for years, activists insisted biology didn't matter. They mocked parents, silenced coaches, and punished any athlete who spoke up. But when Trump stepped in and said, enough, women's sports exist for women, everything exploded, folks. I mean, suddenly the left realized that the ground beneath them had shifted. Most Americans agreed with Trump. Do you guys agree with Trump? I mean, every lifelong Democrat said that the issue had gone too far. Now, this ban isn't about volleyball or swimming meets. It is about who gets to decide the rules of reality. Parents or activism, voters or ideologues, biology or belief. I mean, schools became battlegrounds, folks. Legislators went to war, and campuses, let's just say that they're the first place that you're going to see the eruption happen. And we've already seen similar with Charlie Kirk. Yes or no, right? And so, ladies and gentlemen, nobody, not even the Democrats, saw this coming. For years, the activists told us that the debate was over. Gender ideology wasn't controversial, they said. They said that it was settled. You were supposed to accept it. Your kids are supposed to accept it. And if you didn't, you're a bigot. End of discussion, right? But guess what? The voters didn't buy it. Pew Research now shows a massive shift. 66% of Americans support restrictions on gender policies in sports. And when you ask parents what they want taught in schools, the answer is crystal clear. Stop the ideological experiments. Can I get an amen, guys? I mean, the left assumed that they had a generational mandate. They believed young voters were locked in forever, but now young men are drifting right. Minority voters are saying enough. Moms are organizing like it's the new Tea Party. This is not a policy disagreement. This is clearly a revolt, and Democrats can't stop it. And doing nothing feels comfortable. I get it. Right up until the bill comes. And when it comes to Medicare, that's exactly how people get blindsided. Chapter goes line by line through your plan, finds the hidden costs that most people never even notice, and fixes your coverage before inaction turns into expensive surprises. And of course, they do it all for free for the Ron Yates community. And most people are choosing action, not consequences. Most people are already dialing the phone number at the bottom of your screen right there. And that phone number again is 909-563-8279, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron. And I do want to read a quick message that really hit me hard because it shows what happens when someone actually takes that step. So Pam and Randy Adventures left me a comment saying, "Thank you, Ron. I called Chapter and I found out that my current Medicare plan was cutting my benefits and my copays were going up in January. So the lady at Chapter showed me several plans and I chose a plan that's actually better than my old plan. Plus my new plan gives me $75 a month back on my Medicare Part B. Thank you, Ron, for letting us know about Chapter and the money that we can save. $75 is a lot of money when you're on a fixed income." Hey, Pam, Randy, this is exactly why I keep bringing Chapter to this audience, folks. $75 a month isn't just a number. This is groceries, that's medication, that's peace of mind. And hearing your story kind of reminds a lot of people that are watching the show right now that they're not stuck with whatever plan that somebody signed them up for years ago. I just want to say I really appreciate you guys both for sharing that with me. And it really shows people what's possible when you stop avoiding the problem and actually take control of your coverage. So nowhere is the panic louder than on America's campuses. The places that once bragged about being laboratories of debate, they have transformed into ideological fortresses where dissent is hunted and punished. Now, according to FIRE's 2025 rankings, free speech on campus is at the lowest level ever recorded. Students are told which ideas are acceptable, which words are forbidden, and which identities must be affirmed, even against their own beliefs. Now, here's the twist, folks. The public finally sees it. For years, universities operated behind a certain curtain of prestige. But when students started screaming down speakers, blocking lectures, staging hostage-style protests, and celebrating violence as expression, the mask fell off. Parents are furious. Donors are backing out. Legislators are done playing nice. The most powerful institutions in American culture, universities, they're losing moral authority in real time. They aren't educating anymore. They're enforcing. And the country is saying, not anymore, not on my watch. Now, if you really want to see where the national pressure finally bursts, don't look at Congress, look at the campuses. These universities, they have become the front line of engineered chaos. I mean, look, we're seeing these organized mob blockades, students trapping professors in buildings, fire alarms pulled to shut down conservative events, and activists staging violent performance art glorifying political assassinations. And here's what really makes it all possible. There is no accountability. In deep blue jurisdictions, Chicago, Portland, Boston, Minneapolis, students can smash windows, vandalize property, and physically block federal officers and walk free. Less than 2% of 2020 rioters were ever prosecuted. That message stuck. If you riot for the right ideology, you're protected. So the radical fringe pushes even harder. They escalate. They test the limits. They want chaos to feel inevitable. And every time a university caves to the mobs, it sends one message. If you scream loud enough, you can run the school and maybe even the country. But here's where everything changes. President Trump's December 2025 federal funding rules. This is the earthquake that the left never thought would actually hit. For the first time in modern history, the federal government is telling universities, you're free to believe whatever you want, but not with taxpayer money unless you obey federal law. That means real free speech policies, not some performative ones, no ideological discrimination in hiring or admissions, no racially segregated dorms, graduations, or DEI-only programs, compliance with Supreme Court rulings, and constitutional protections. Now, if a university refuses, their federal funds evaporate, their research budgets collapse, their prestige dissolves overnight. This is why campuses are erupting, because Trump isn't arguing anymore. He's just enforcing. And the institutions that built their power on ideology instead of law, they're suddenly facing existential level accountability. This is the moment that they always feared. And so for decades, the left didn't need to win every election because they owned the institutions that shaped the narrative. The media, the universities, the bureaucracies, these were their force multipliers, so to speak. But now, late in 2025, Those pillars are collapsing under their own weight. Legacy media is in free fall. Network audiences are shrinking. NPR and PBS are facing the most aggressive federal accountability reviews in their history because taxpayers refuse to subsidize ideological messaging that they never agreed with to begin with. And academia, well, their reputational collapse is so severe that even blue state parents are asking where their tuition money is going. Meanwhile, the administrative state, the left's final safety net, is being forced into compliance under Trump's executive orders. No more freelancing, no more slow-walking federal directives, no more ideological carve-outs. When the media can't shield you, when academia can't indoctrinate you, when the bureaucracy can't sabotage for you, your power evaporates. And that's exactly what's happening. You know, while we're talking about institutions collapsing and people realizing that they're more vulnerable than they thought, let me tell you something a retiree shared with me recently. He woke up, checked his bank account, and $8,000 was gone. Vanished. $8,000 just disappeared. The bank told him the transactions looked normal. Normal to who? Certainly not to the man who earned that money, but that's how modern thieves operate today. Quiet, slow, and invisible until the moment it's too late. And this is exactly why I keep mentioning LifeLock. They alert you the moment something unusual hits your identity before the damage becomes catastrophic. And right now, you can try it 30 days for free, no risk, full protection. Because here's the truth nobody wants to learn the hard way. Most people over 50 found out that the bank doesn't always catch it, but LifeLock does. It's one of those things where doing nothing feels easier until the day doing nothing costs you everything. So click the link in the description down below this video and get your free 30-day trial of LifeLock today. And so now I want to talk about the last remaining fortress of progressive influence, the deep blue cities. These urban hubs, Portland, Chicago, New York, Minneapolis, they have become ideological sanctuaries where prosecutors refuse to prosecute. Activists dictate policy, and local governments, they treat federal law as optional. But here's the truth that nobody on the left wants to admit. These cities have lost their national influence. Crime is out of control. Families are fleeing. Tax bases are evaporating. Businesses are gone. And while mayors perform these symbolic resistances against federal authority, the rest of America is watching and saying, oh, absolutely not. We do not want that model anymore. These cities used to set these cultural trends. Now they're cautionary tales. Their refusal to enforce laws isn't empowering a movement, it's isolating them from the country they once shaped. When your strongest strongholds become warnings instead of examples, your movement is already collapsing, let me tell you. So this is where the stakes skyrocketed, because what we're seeing in 2025 isn't just cultural tensions or political disagreement. It is a constitutional showdown, a modern replay of the same battles that defined the Civil War and the Civil Rights era. Blue cities are openly behaving like they can nullify federal law. Sanctuary policies, blocked deportations, interference with federal officers, mayors and DAs claiming that they get to decide which federal rules matter and which don't. But Trump's message has been crystal clear. One constitution, one federal law, not two. Not optional, not negotiable. So this is the part that terrifies the left, because legal precedents that they created to target conservatives now apply equally to them. The same supremacy clause they invoked against Arizona under Obama now stands in Trump's hands, aimed back at sanctuary cities refusing to cooperate. And deep down, they already know it. That is why they scream authoritarianism every time that Trump simply enforces the law. For 8 long years, the left weaponized the justice system, indictments, investigations, unprecedented prosecutions, and these legal theories stretched all the way to the breaking point and back again. They believed lawfare was a one-way weapon, something that they could use to cripple Trump without ever facing consequences themselves. But here in 2025, Trump is doing something that they never anticipated. He's using the exact legal precedents that they built against him. If discussing legal options can be labeled as a conspiracy, then what do you call activists coordinating riots across multiple states? If political speech can be treated as criminal interference, then what do you call campus groups that are blocking federal officers and shutting down government facilities? The left wrote the playbook. They normalized criminalizing political differences. And now they're panicking because those laws don't disappear when the White House changes hands. Lawfare wasn't a sword. It's a boomerang, and it's coming back pretty fast. And so now everything converges. Schools, sports, campuses, politics, it is all crashing together in December 2025. Trump's trans athlete ban is moving from theory to enforcement. Universities are facing hard deadlines to comply with federal free speech requirements. States have to rewrite these school policies to align with biological reality. And the American people, now firmly rejecting gender ideology, is demanding transparency and accountability like never before. Institutions that once believed that they were untouchable are suddenly standing on cracking ice. They can't satisfy activists without violating federal law. They can't appease the federal government without enraging their own radical base. They can't calm parents down. They can't control students, and they cannot control the backlash. This is why everything feels like it's about to blow, because it is. For the first time in decades, cultural power, political power, public opinion, and legal authority, they're all moving in the same direction. And the left has never been more unprepared. And so here we are, guys, ladies and gentlemen, the tipping point. America is staring directly at this binary choice here. Do we return to constitutional order where laws apply equally, free speech actually exists, and public institutions serve the people instead of the activists? Or do we let the remnants of the old culture machine drag us into chaos, nullification, and permanent ideological warfare? Well, President Trump is signaling the direction that he believes restores stability. Enforce federal law, selective obedience, protect women's sports, defend free expression, and hold universities accountable. But the institutions that are losing power, they're not going quietly. They're clawing, screaming, escalating. They're hoping that enough disorder will make Americans desperate for the very system that failed them to begin with. The next year will decide which side wins: order or chaos, reality or ideology, the Constitution or the Bob. And that's why right now, schools, sports, and campuses are erupting.